I will fulfill my mission! Do it!
Firing gravity control shell.
Nine...
Alert. Error in your high unit 2B's memory region.
Understood. I cannot die. I made someone promise.
For this guide, I had a couple of ideas that I wanted to do in terms of like a 2B guide for Soul Calibur, and I pretty much came to the idea that I wanna the guide that I want to make, I want it to be tailored towards my playstyle, because obviously you can play 2B in a bunch of different ways. So the way I want to have it set up is that you can watch my guide, see what I do with 2B, think about the way that you want to use her, and sort of take stuff from my guide and add it to your playstyle. So, excuse me, some things that I'm going to be going over in this guide is like her basic pokes, some of her launchers. I'll do a little combo showcase at the end, neutral tools, and pretty much like what my mindset is when I go into a match. So I'll probably just be testing most of the stuff out on Amy, but I will show off a couple things with like some of the bigger characters that I try to keep in mind. So I'll go over her basic tools, neutral, her meter stuff, soul charge, most of that stuff. We'll try to keep it as simple as possible, but some things are going to get a little complicated, especially when we get into her stances. But other than that, you should be able to keep up even if you just started off with the character. So let's see if we can go ahead and get into some of her pokes, and we'll move from there. So 2B, in terms of like a character, in terms of like how she moves and everything, she feels she's very much like how she is in her games, where everything just kind of like if you press one button a bunch of stuff comes out. But for the most part, when I'm playing 2B, some things that I like to keep in mind as her main focus would be her stances, like especially her, I believe it's called the aggression stance. Hold on. Aggression shift, excuse me. So you can do aggression shift forward, aggression shift backwards. She also has an aerial leap that's useful as well. So pretty much when I start off a match, some of my main pokes that I use are 1B. 1B is great because it's really fast. It comes out, it's low, so most people don't really expect it. You obviously can't react to it either. So once you go into 1B, you can hold either back or forward to go into her aggression shift. So that's useful because then obviously you can get your offense started from there, and just work your way there. From there, another poke that I like is obviously she's got her BB, which does 21. Her AA does 18. Standard, I think her AA is 12 and her BB is 14 frames. One thing that I do like to make a note of is BA, which is a mid into her little low string that she has here. This I like to use to like maybe sort of close out rounds and make sure that to kind of catch your opponent off guard, because especially if you're trying to get your opponent off of Inoki, sometimes what they'll do is they'll guard low because they'll expect you to try to hit them with a low to end the round off. So this is a good way to catch them off guard with the mid and then go into the low. So that's why I like to use that move as well. Some of her other pokes that I like to use to start my offense is 6-6-8, which is a low high. That is a natural combo if the low hits. So, and after that you can also go into aggression shift, forward and back, same way. You can also go into her aerial leap as well. I forgot to mention that for 1v2. But other than that, that's another good move that I like to use, that you'll see me use a lot whenever I play 2B. Another way to get into her strings, to her aggression shift is AAA, and then forward or back. I try not to use this one too much though, because since it is a high string, even if your opponent gets hit by the first two, they can still duck and punish you for it, and you're pretty much wide open if you toss out that third one. So I try not to use it too much because most of the time when you're fighting a good player, you will get ducked on that and punished. So the safer option there would be forward B, excuse me, 6BB, I believe. Yeah, and then you can just hold forward or back. Same thing, go into aggression shift, and that's pretty much how I like to get my offense started. Obviously, my poke tools are 3A. 1A is a good one too. That's literally just the low from BA itself. I also like to use 1K, which gives you an analysis point, which I might get into a little later. And just a regular BB and her AA. Another good tool for 2B in terms of like her side steps. Like you want to, obviously in this game you want to be moving around a lot if your opponent's doing a lot of verticals, or just to make sure that you space your moves properly. So her 2-2-8, her 2-2-8 A string is really good. It is 3 highs, but if it is a natural combo if that first hit connects, and even if it gets blocked completely, it's only -2, so you can't be punished from there. And it also has a variation where you can do 8-8-B, or excuse me, 8-8-AB, and that last hit becomes a mid. This one is -10, so some of the characters that have 10 frames, they can punish you for it, so I would just keep an eye out when it comes to using that. But other than that, this is a great tool. It does a decent amount of damage for a regular string, and it's a great way to catch. Even if you find situations where I find myself is like me and my opponent will both be sidestepping and we'll just be going around in circles, this is a great move to throw out to try to catch them slipping, and that'll get you some guaranteed damage. Next we can go into what I do with her aggression shift. So the way I use her aggression shift, right, I'll do 6-6-A, right, go into aggression shift, and I'll just do aggression shift A, right, just to see how the opponent reacts. If they guard it, I'll keep applying pressure. If they get hit by it, I'll keep going with it as well. This is a good move to sort of get a feel for how your opponent reacts. So for example, let's say she gets hit and then she tries to get me with a 2A, right? So something that I'll do is I'll do aggression shift AA, and then go into aggression shift A+B, which is a good way to catch people that try to like press a button, especially after they get hit by AA. And then after that you get a nice little follow. You get 42 damage there. And that's if they're far from you. Sometimes you'll be able to get a little more damage out of that, but for now that's pretty much all you'll be getting. Another thing, the other move that I like to use is her grab out of aggression shift. This is another good way to start off your pressure in aggression shift, especially if you see that your opponent is just blocking regular. They're not blocking like they're not ducking or anything like that, or like crouch guarding you. So a good way to go into it would be like I would do 1B and go right into her grab for aggression shift. That gets you a nice amount of damage. It gets you 61. It used to be more, but unfortunately they did nerf it. Same thing with her back throw. Back throw is also a great tool to catch your opponent slipping. You can go right into her critical edge out of that.
Initiating attack program.
It gives you about, I think it's like 75 damage.
We will continue to fight.
77. So yeah, that's
Alert.
great damage. I like to use this to sort of like end off the round if I notice that my opponent's still standing after I hit him with a move out of aggression shift. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Another great tool out of her aggression shift is her BB string. This is the low from this move that if you catch your opponent slipping, does lead to a small combo. Gets you about 48 damage. Let me see, what else? Oh, A+B that I mentioned earlier. You can literally just, you can either press it or hold it. If you press it, it's more so to catch your opponent either sidestepping or trying to press a button. If you see that your opponent is still guarding, I would go for the down version, because that is safe. I'll show off right now. See, it's -8, I believe. The only problem with aggression shift really is if your opponent decides to reversal edge you, you're pretty much boned when it comes to that. If you if you see your opponent reversal edge and you're hitting them, just get ready to go into the reversal edge, rock paper scissors, because there's really no way to get out of it. So hold on, let me see if I can show this off.
Initiate.
Have to put it on hold.
Initiate.
Oh, that's not. Sorry about that. Hold on, guys. So reversal edge, pretty much that's like your kryptonite when it comes to aggression shift. It pretty much nullifies any attack that you can do out of aggression shift, unless you time a B plus K correctly, where she does back up and toss out the the fist, and in that case you would pretty much be good to go. You wouldn't get hit by a reversal edge. You could try to whiff punish your opponent at that point, but that's your safest bet when it comes to that. Most of the time though, the best way to do it is if you're anticipating a reversal edge, you could do something like this. You could cancel aggression shift with G. So as soon as you go into it, let's say you do this, you can cancel, and then punish, right? So boom boom, cancel, sidestep, and punish. So that's what you want to keep in mind when it comes to using aggression shift. Really, the worst thing you want to look out for is reversal edge. But if your opponent does anything else in terms of like pressing a button, trying to interrupt you, trying to launch you, you're always going to have an answer for that. You might get hit the first time, but then that's when you take note, okay, my opponent did this, my opponent tried to press a button, they got me with it. The next time, I'll do A plus B. Or maybe I'll do back aggression shift and press B plus K, back up, and hit my opponent. So let me just show you guys what B plus K does real quick. So I'll show you an example of the opponent trying to attack here.
Eliminating.
That gives you another 61. It's pretty much just like her grab in terms of the amount of damage it does.
Now.
So it's definitely another great tool that you have out of aggression shift that I would definitely make use of. And it is safe, obviously, because I mean, look at the distance it leaves you at. So most of the time, you're not going to be punished for that move. So that's pretty much it in terms of her aggression shift. There's also her K, her K move out of aggression shift. That's more so for like fishing for counter hits. Because if you get counter hit, you get a nice little combo out of that. Hold on. You get some nice damage out of that, but most of the time, that's pretty much only going to be for fishing for counter hits. It is safe if you do that and then go back into aggression shift, so you'll still be an advantage as long as you connect with it, and if they guard it as well, you'll still be pretty much good to go there. The next thing I want to move on to is some of her sidestep tools. I think 2B has a pretty good sidestep game in terms of like her pokes, some launchers that she has, and this, right? So I'm gonna start off with her 8A and her 8A plus AD. Excuse me. Both of these deal really good damage, and obviously they're accessible from your sidestep. So if you want to go for something safe and that you know you're not going to get punished for, I would go for 8AA, 8AAA, or 8AAD. If you want a little more damage. What I run into often is sometimes I'll catch my opponents, if I start doing my AA, they'll try to duck that last hit, and that's when you can catch them with the mid. And then this also becomes more useful in Soul Charge, which we'll get into a little bit later. But other than that, you also have your 8-8B plus K, which leads to a small, which leads to a pretty damaging combo, as you can see there. It's also safe, and it does put your opponent in crouch, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, so you're pretty much safe here. No matter what your opponent does, you can always block it. It's also so it's accessible out of her sidestep. Gets you good launch. It's a little bit slow, but that's the only thing. If your opponent does see it coming, it can also be sidestep pretty well as also. But honestly, it's still a pretty good move overall, and it does lead to a decent amount of combo damage. Another move that I like to use from her sidestep is 8A. It's pretty much accessible out of her 8-way run. A plus B. This is another move that I like to use if my opponent's trying to sidestep. Let's say, right. Oh, sorry about that. So let's say we're both sidestepping. I can get it there, and then you can get a small combo afterwards. You're trying to go straight, but you should be able to get it. Sorry about that. There you go. And it's also a good move for just catching your opponent because it covers a wide area on 2B, but I wouldn't just I'd just be careful when it comes to like spamming it because it is pretty punishable. If you do it up close and your opponent blocks it, you can get launched by everyone, I'm pretty sure. Right, so there, and then they get launched, and that's a full combo punish pretty much. So you want to just be careful with that. But all in all, the last tool that she has out of her sidestep, well, that I would like to... Actually, hold on, there's a couple more. So there's 88B. That's a long-range poke. Pretty safe too, since it has so much range. And on counter hit, it does lead to a small combo too. So that's definitely something that you want to keep in mind. Oh, still guarding. See, so you can go into aggression shift by holding the forward backward, obviously. So if you get a counter hit, you can go in for a nice little combo. Gets you about 55, and this is definitely probably her safest option other than her sidestep B plus K. So definitely go between these two. Just make sure that for this one you do space it properly, because if you use it up close, you can get punished for it. I don't know if you can get launched though. Let me see. Yeah, no, you can. So it's a little punishable, but not too much. So you won't eat that bad of a punish on it. It's still a good tool to use and keep in mind for when you're trying to get in on your opponent. So that's pretty much it for her sidestep tools. Oh, sorry, there's one more. So there's also 88K. Which is a low that goes into a 3-hit high, and then you can also extend it by pressing B again. You can do the regular hit. That does bounce your opponent a little bit. But what I like to go for is the K hold. It gives you guard crush, and if your opponent gets hit by it, massive damage. 81. 81 with crush. I believe it's like 75 without it.
I'll kill you. I'll kill you.
There you go, 75. Yeah, so you're getting great damage off of that. It's definitely a good move to try to throw out every now and then. Maybe get your opponent fishing for a counter hit. See if they try to like press something during it. It's a good move to use along with all her other sidestep tools. I'd say 2B has a pretty strong sidestep game. Just from all the tools that she has. She's got a pretty meaty launcher here that's also safe. If you want to be a little bit risky, you can go for this to cover the larger area. And then she also has her sidestep that goes into some damage as well. Sorry about that. Alright, so we covered what I do out of aggression shift, her sidestep tools. Let's see. Covered most of her grabs. Other than her aggression shift grab, there's one other notable grab, which is 6-6 A plus G.
Already.
That does give you analysis points, which I'll get into a little bit later.
Already.
And it's also a nice little mix-up for your opponent, and when you want to mix them up with in terms of like either forward or back grab, because I believe that's a back grab break that you have to do on that one. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
Give up. Already.
I'll get into her soul charge now.
Executing support program.
Roger.
And from here, she some of her basic tools that she has gets opened up a lot. The first thing I want to make note of is her sidestep AA string. So remember, this is a natural combo on hit. If you press A another time, oh,
goodbye.
there you go. You get that goes into this nice little combo there. But that only activates whenever you're at full health. So that lethal hit right there.
Goodbye.
only goes if you have 4
Initiating assistance.
and you get a nice combo there out of what is a very safe string, and it has decent amount of reach. And you can also access it out of your sidestep. So that's definitely a tool that I would make use of. Maybe consider going into Soul Charge a little earlier just so that I have access to it. So that's pretty much what I would consider when it's in terms of that move. But other than that, even if you don't get the lethal hit, you still get 50 damage out of that. And I think it's a little bit more. It might be 51, but.
Goodbye.
Yeah, 49, 50, it has a little bit of a variance there with this. Yeah, 51. So definitely still a good move overall for poking and just having it in Soul Charge. It's a great move. Her aggression shift B string opens up for some insane combos. So what I like to do is her aggression shift AA, or her aggression shift A gets an extra hit that knocks down the opponent. So what you can do there, and what I like to do, is I'll be pressuring my opponent with AA until they get hit. Because even if, because AA, A in aggression shift becomes completely safe. Like your opponent cannot do anything because of that third hit. Except for reversal. But other than that, if they try to 2A it,
Fire support.
and that's when you start coming. So again, just to show you guys what I did here. So
Fire support.
into the B string,
Fire support.
and then just follow up with your basic combo that you have. I do like to modify this combo a little bit, especially since I'm in Soul Charge. Is where I like to do this. Finish this, obviously, and I would just do forward B and just hold down B, because then you get a nice little guard crush. And what you can do there is, if your opponent tries to attack after the guard crush, just mash B.
Initiating
That's a
assistance.
whole nother combo that you get out of that. So unless they try to like maybe sidestep you or they see it coming, if they try to press a button right after that, they'll get caught in the counter hit string, and that is major damage. That's probably at least 3/4 of their life bar, I would say, that comes off just from that little exchange. So that's what I like to fish for in their Soul Charge. Go into this little string here, and then just forward B hold, and then boom. See? Counter hit.
Initiating assistance.
And then the best thing about that is that most of the time, that combo, since it goes like all over the map, you'll be pretty close to your opponent afterwards, so you can follow up with one of the posts I showed you guys earlier, maybe a BA. Well, if they don't try to press a button there. Or maybe a BA, regular BB, AA, 1K. You got a whole plethora of options. So that's another thing that comes good out of 2B's Soul Charge, is her aggression shift becomes just that much more deadly. Another move that she does gain is 66BA, 66BA, no, 66B A plus B, which is a move that she gets access to that some people use to finish combos. I don't really use it much in the way that I use her Soul Charge. For the most part, I stick to her sidestep A, and her aggression shift A as well. However, one thing that I will show off, well, I'll show it off a little bit later, but there are some crazy combos that you can get access to from her Soul Charge that I'll show off a little bit later. But in terms of her tools, those are the ones that I definitely use out of her Soul Charge. Is aggression shift A, aggression shift B, her sidestep A's, and then there's one last thing that I like to make a note of. Now this move is highly punishable, so you should only use it if you know your opponent's gonna whiff a move and you can reach them with this. Is her 4BBB string. So let me show it to you how it looks in normal. So normally it would be this. You'll see it. You can use it like a follow-up to finish your combos. right? So like there's 6, A8, B plus K. That's 4 BB, right? So if you do this move normally, it doesn't do a lot of damage, but it is super punishable. So if you do it in Soul Charge though,
Executing support program.
Roger.
you get a nice little hit afterwards. An extension of it. Hold on, let me... So,
I'll kill you.
Initiating fire support.
obviously your opponent can still sidestep the move very easily, so I still wouldn't recommend spamming it. But if you catch your opponent slacking,
Initiating fire support. Initiating fire support.
huge damage. And I mean huge damage. So it's definitely something to consider. You know your opponent's going to whip a move in front of your face. It's a great tool that you can use, and it just adds to her arsenal in Soul Charge. Just be careful with it, obviously, since it is very unsafe on block. Though, hold on. I want to see how it is on her Soul Charge, so give me just a sec, guys. I'm gonna look this up real quick. Okay, so it's actually +8 on Soul Charge, so it's still your turn technically when you do use this move. This move right here becomes super safe in Soul Charge, but obviously I still wouldn't spam it just for the simple fact that it's easily sidesteppable. Like this last hit takes a while to come out.
I'll kill you.
Even if you press it right away, it's still a pretty slow move. So even if your opponent sees it coming, they can just sidestep, launch you for free, essentially. So just another move to keep in mind. Her Soul Charge is definitely an amazing tool. It makes her so much better, and pretty much just augments all of her standard moves. Like there's nothing crazy. Well, there's no like extra moves that she'll gain out of it, but her basic tools that she uses, especially out of Aggression Shift, just become that much better. Let's see. So I covered her aggression shift, Soul Charge. Another thing to keep a note of is her angler stance, which is just B plus K. Out of here, you have a couple different options. You have A, which is just a quick hit that you can hit your opponent with. And it does lead to a small little follow-up on counter hit if you're at right distance. She also has her E, which is just a couple shots that she fires out of the pod, and it does go full screen. So if your opponent's far away, you can just blast them with this. And if you hold B, obviously, and this applies for any of the moves, for A and B, if you hold them, you'll stay in angler stance. If you just press them, you'll get out of it. But yeah, so those are some of the moves that I use out of her angler. Most of the time when I go into angler, it's usually if my opponent's far away. I'll just do a bunch of this to harass them to the start, to come in, and either interrupt their dash or just start my offense on them. Her other option that she has is her K. This isn't a command grab, unfortunately. This can be blocked. But if you do catch your opponent, it does lead to a small little follow-up. And if you want to end the round, you can go right into your critical edge.
Initiating attack program.
So if you catch your opponent slipping with this, it's a great tool to end off a round, deal some extra damage as well. But the main use that I use this for, and you can also do close with 4K, far with 6K, and the standard regular K is that distance. So there are 3 variations of it, and the reason, the way I use it is for your analysis points, which I'll get into a little bit now. So for her analysis points, what it pretty much is there are certain moves that give you this little like disruptive like looking thing on your opponent. There's 4B, or 4K, which is this little 2-hit move. There's 1K. There's also 9K, which is her leaping move in the air. You can do either 9, 8, or 7. So 7, 8, 9K. This one gives you 2, I believe, or 3. I'm not too sure. So pretty much what you want to do here is If you keep hitting your opponent with these moves and racking up analysis points,
Enemy weakness detected.
you'll get that message from Pod, and there'll also be a small flash on the screen. At this point, certain moves you do will become lethal hits. So what I like to do is, once I have access to that, I'll go into Angler, catch my opponent, and
Report.
you're going to do
Fresh.
4K, full combo. And it can get even better. Like, that's I'd say that's on the short side in terms of like damage.
Analysis complete.
So, let's try another one.
Report. Fresh.
You do 6B hold. That leads to a decent amount of damage as well. And if you get that follow-up afterwards with her B plus K backturned, then it leads to even more damage. So it's definitely something to consider. However, I wouldn't plan your whole offense around it because it can sort of distract you. Another move that gives it is if you do her 3B launcher. Okay. That's another good move to use. But I usually just go for the damage. When I get that launcher, just go for 3B. So that's pretty much what the analysis points are for. There's also 6BK. That also gives you analysis points. It also becomes lethal hit. So I'll show you.
Weakness analysis complete.
So, and it's also a natural combo. So all you gotta do is hit, and boom. You can also go into her critical edge right off the
Initiating attack
for a good
program.
amount of damage. I think this does like 90, 95 on it.
We will continue to fight.
99, there you go.
Alert.
So that's a
Hostile
good
remains
amount of
active.
damage off of that lethal hit as well. There's one more situation,
Enemy weakness detected.
which is her AAK when she's in flow. So if you launch AAK, boom. You can go for another launcher. Deals an 88 out of that one. You could probably get more, I'm sure, if you do maybe a critical edge or a different kind of follow-up. But it just adds onto her tool set, and it's a great thing to keep in mind if you notice it, and if you find a way to maybe modify your combos to include analysis points moves, then more power to you. So that's pretty much what I consider in terms of her analysis points and the way that she uses them. Let's see what we got next. That's pretty much it in terms of the way that I use 2B. So the ways I try to open up my opponent are, again, 1B, 6A, and I pretty much go into aggression shift from there. 6B, 6BB, go into aggression shift, and then you start your offense there. That's pretty much the way that I do it. It's worked out for me pretty well so far. I'm going to do a little showcase for some of her combos. The launchers I'll be showing here are her standard 3B, 3B hold. I'll show off some lethal hit combos as well. I'll use her sidestep, and I'll do a couple soul charge combos also. So let's go ahead and get right into this. This is going to be the last part of the video, and then I'll do a small little outro afterwards.
Provide care for this unit.
So I just want to make a note for that combo that I just did right now. For this one, your guard gauge has to be full. So this is something that you would get at the beginning of the round, or before your opponent even touches you, if you can manage to avoid them for a decent amount of time. But this is easily one of her most devastating combos that you don't go for soul charge for. It does a crazy amount of damage, 113 as you just saw there. So yeah, definitely the best time to go for that would probably be at the beginning of a round, if you want to go for a hard hit on it with her 3B hold, and then just go right into it. And that's, as you saw, that was over half of the bar. So let's continue on to some of the other combos she has.
I'll kill you. I'll kill you.
And then let's show off some of her counter hit combos as well. So one move that I forgot to mention a little bit earlier that I have been using more as of late is A slide B. So you pretty much just slide your finger over from A to B. And if you get this on counter hit, it's a good long range poke that she has. It is a high though, unfortunately. So it's more so just for fishing for counter hits. But if you do get it, you can go right into her B plus K. And then her 1 B plus K after that for some really good damage. So definitely something to consider. You see your opponent's pressing a lot of buttons and you can put the distance on them with this. And other than that, I mean, honestly, let me go into her soul charge,
support program.
and I'll show off some of her crazy soul charge combos that she has. So if you're at the beginning of the round and you still have full guard stamina, this is a crazy combo that you could go for.
For this unit.
And again, so you saw that did 129. That's a damn good combo. And if you want, what you can do is end it off the way I told you guys earlier. Hold on. This is I gotta get this properly because if not, then she's gonna get run out. She's still gonna get run out there, this one? So you can do it. You can end it with the hold B, and then obviously, if your opponent gets up and starts guarding that, you can go right into the BB pressure, and then you'll get them on counter hit. And boom, that's another massive combo that you get, and that's pretty much a dead opponent at that point. So that's just something to keep an eye out. I'll show off a couple of her other combos that I go for. Her sidestep, A string. The lethal hit on there.
Goodbye.
So for regular B, I just like to mash B at that point. Let's see. And then obviously the butter combo out of the soul charge. So you see, 2B has so much crazy damage that she deals out of her soul charge, and just like normally, her launchers are so good, and you just get so much payoff for them. Next combo I'd like to mention is the one I showed you guys earlier. This one obviously just keep in mind. Since you're in soul charge, this speed is safe, but it still can be easily sidestepped, so just be very wary when you're you want to pretty much use this when you know you're shooting at the instant, just to make sure that your opponent doesn't catch you slipping with a sidestep. So that's pretty much it. Honestly, there's that's essentially how I use 2B in a nutshell, guys. A lot of aggression shift, honestly. I'm a very aggressive player when it comes to using 2B. I like to maintain the flow of the battle in terms of how I like it, which is fast paced. I always want to keep my opponent guessing with mix-ups, whether it be going in with a 6-6A, hitting them with a 1B, and just mixing them up off aggression shift as well. You want to make sure you use all your tools out of aggression shift, and then if they ever go into reversal edge, at that point you'd want to just pretty much bait and punish, or have really good luck with reversal edge, because reversal edge is easily the biggest thing that fucks you up when it comes to using her aggression shift. So just keep all of that in mind, guys. Honestly, 2B's a hella fun character to use. There's a couple other things that I didn't really talk about here, but I think in terms of how I use the character, I covered most, if not 99.9% of how I use her. She's incredibly fun. So I hope you guys take what I showed you in this video, add it to your own playstyle. And wreck house with her. She's awesome. She's a great character. But other than that, thank you guys for stopping by, and that's pretty much it for my guide. Thanks everyone for checking out the first guide, and I'll have this up on YouTube probably by tomorrow.
Alert. Hostile remains active.